Hello everyone, my name is Hannah. Welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to be filming my October wrap-up. So I managed to read 16 books in October. I participated in 3 different readathons. I had planned to participate in 4, but I went through like a mini reading slump a little bit. I kind of feel like I'm not all the way out of it. A little bit I am, but you know how it goes. So anyways, I didn't get to do the sweater weather readathon, unfortunately. But yeah, without further ado, let's talk about all the books that I read in October. So the first books I want to talk about are the 2 final novels and 2 novellas to complete the Devil's Night series by Penelope Douglas. So I read Kill Switch, which is book 3. This is Damon's book. I'm not going to talk a ton about these because they're the end of a series, but this is Damon's book. This is like a dark romance series and I really enjoyed it. I didn't really like Damon in the first and second books, so I went into this one kind of skeptical because I'm like, I'm gonna have to read about this character that I don't like. And of course Penelope Douglas managed to make me like Damon, even if it's just like a little bit, because he kind of redeems himself a bit in this one, but you at least understand him a bit more because in the first books he's a little sketch. And the novella is Conclave. This is like 3.5. And I think it's important to read this before going into the final book because it gives you a little bit of information that you kind of need. So I'm really glad I read this. Oh, I didn't say ratings. It's like I've never done a wrap-up before. I gave Kill Switch 4 stars and I gave Conclave 4.5 stars. Then the final book is Nightfall. This is Will's book, which we meet Will in Punk 57 actually, and so I was very curious about his book. But yeah, I think out of the 4 horsemen, Will is maybe my favorite. Him and Kai are like my favorites. So it was really fun to read Will's book and I really liked the setting of this book. I ended up giving this one 5 out of 5. I really liked this one. And then the novella Fire Night is just kind of like a where are they now situation, and it kind of deals with some of the children from the couples in the series. And it's set around the holidays, which I really enjoyed reading about. And for like a 100-page novella, it was like really good. I gave this one 5 out of 5 too. Okay, so now let's talk about the readathons that I did. The first readathon that I participated in was Stabathon, which was hosted by my friends Cami, Naomi, and Sav. And I have a whole reading vlog of reading these books, so if you want some more in-depth thoughts or if you want to see me read them, I'll link that up in the cards and in the description down below. But the first book that I read for Stabathon was Ace of Spades by Farida Abike-Iyamete. And it fit the vibes. It's like a kind of YA thriller, kind of dark academia setting. It's pitched as Get Out meets Gossip Girl, and I would also throw in like Pretty Little Liars too because it kind of had that feel to it. And this was a wild ride. I really liked this. I really liked the writing, and the story went somewhere that I wasn't expecting, and I really liked the turn that it took. So I really liked this one. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Then I picked up You Must Not Miss by Katrina Leno. This is just a pretty short, it's less than 300 pages. I don't know exactly what this book is classified as. Like, is it a thriller? Is it a horror? Is it magical realism? I don't really know. But it's a book, and it's a book that I read. I read a few of Katrina Leno's other books, and so I was very curious to pick this one up. And it's weird. It's a weird one. It's like, I don't know if it'll be for everybody, but I enjoyed it. Basically, it follows this girl Magpie who, I don't know, she's kind of going through some stuff, and she has this notebook that she writes like this like ideal world in, and that world ends up becoming like a reality for her. And that's all I'm really gonna say. But yeah, this was definitely a weird book, a wild ride. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Then the next book I picked up was Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. You guys know The House in the Cerulean Sea was one of my favorite books of last year. It's one of my favorite books of all time, still is. And so I was highly anticipating this one, and it did not disappoint. I really liked this one. It deals a lot with death and loss and grief. So if those are like not really your thing, maybe skip this one because it very heavily deals with those things, and it gets very emotional and very deep at times. Definitely made me tear up at times, but it's just so beautiful, and the story is incredible. The characters are incredible, and I really like TJ Klune's like brain and have like the things that he thinks up. Like, I don't know. I just loved everything about this. I loved the setting, set in like this little tea shop, and it follows, the main character is a ghost, and the like love interest, I guess, is the ferryman. But the romance kind of takes a bit of a backseat. If you're expecting a romance like with this, I wouldn't do that. It's just like a fun story. But yeah, it follows, what's his name? I want to say Wallace, but I don't know if that's true. It is Wallace. So it follows Wallace, who has just recently died and is coming to terms with the fact that he is a ghost and he will have to move on to the afterlife, and he is just not ready to. So he gets pulled to this little tea shop where the Reaper took him, and he meets the ferryman, Hugo, who is kind of helping him come to terms with the fact that he's dead now and that his life that he knew is over, and he's like there to answer all his questions and stuff. And it's just like such a cool like imagining of like what comes after death, and I just really like that. It was very like comforting even though it deals with heavy topics. But yeah, this was for sure 5 out of 5. Then the final book that I picked up for Stabathon was As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. This is book 3 in the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. It's the finale. I absolutely love the first book, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I read and really, really enjoyed the second book. Not as much as the first, but I did really enjoy it. I think I still gave it 5 out of 5. That one's Good Girl, Bad Blood. And so I was really anticipating the finale here, As Good as Dead. And this one, it wasn't, I still liked it, but it wasn't what I wanted. I really liked the mystery aspect of these books and like Pip solving mysteries and like being the sleuth, being the detective, and like finding all these clues and making lists of things and putting things together. I really, really liked that part of it. But this one takes a bit of a darker turn, and it deals less with like solving the mystery. It still does, but not quite as much, especially in the second half. And I still liked the turn, but I wasn't like the biggest fan of it. I wish I didn't go that way, but I understand why it did. I know this is very like vague and cryptic because it's the finale and I don't want to spoil anything. So the first book follows Pip, who is a high school senior, and she is doing this project, this like final project, and she's trying to solve this murder-suicide that happened in her town 5 years ago. And she doesn't, it's like a boyfriend kills girlfriend, then kills himself, and she does not think that the boyfriend killed the girlfriend or killed himself. She thinks something else is going on, so she tries to solve that mystery, and it kind of takes off from there. She does this whole project, and it's really great. It's got like multimedia aspects to it. There's like a podcast element to it. So the audiobook paired with the physical book is like such an experience because they just do such a good job. It's such a good production, and like seeing everything that you're hearing is also really cool because it's like, you know, stuff like that. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I did like this one. It just took a turn that I wasn't expecting or wanting. So I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. Then I picked up Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This was a book of the month pick for September. And I've been hearing so many good things about this book. Like, everybody that I know has read this and given this like 5 stars. So I was very, very curious to pick this one up. It's a thriller following this couple who is having like problems in their marriage. So they decide to take this like retreat to a Scotland, like almost like a bed and breakfast, but it's at this old creepy chapel. And one of them is lying about something, and some like freaky things start going on, and you're just left with this like unsettling feeling throughout the whole book, like what's gonna happen. And I did really, really like this one. I was trying to like guess where things were going, and I kept messaging Ashley from Ashley's Little Library because she was one of the people that read this and gave it 5 stars. And I was messaging her like my theories, and she was like, oh my god, these are great. So I don't want to say I didn't get them. My theories weren't right. I mean, they weren't right, but they were like close enough that I feel like okay. Like, they weren't so outlandish, you know? But yeah, it was really good. I think I gave this 4 out of 5. Yeah, 4 out of 5. Then the next book I picked up was The X Hex by Erin Sterling. This was the book that kind of like started to pull me out of that little reading slump. Yeah, I picked this one up and read it all in one night. This is a like witchy, October-y rom-com set in this small, cute town that's very Stars Hollow-esque from Gilmore Girls. And I really liked that aspect of it. I liked all of the like witch and magic stuff that happened. The romance was a little lackluster, but basically this girl, oh, I don't even know her name anymore, Vivian, her and her like summer sweetheart like break up, and she is a witch, so she like curses him kind of in like a just like blowing off steam kind of way, not in a super malicious way. She doesn't really think anything of it because she doesn't actually think that it's a real curse. And then 9 years later, the guy comes back to this little town for, he has to like recharge the ley lines of the town and for this like festival or whatever. And all this like bad stuff starts happening to him, and they realize that the curse she put on him 9 years ago is coming true, and like he's cursed. And so they have to like figure out a way to fix that. I think the romance in this book really heavily relied on their past, and it kept being brought up like how much fun they had that summer. And I don't know, the romance was like fine, but it just, I don't know, it was all right. But I really liked the setting and the magic in this book. It was just like exactly the vibe I was going for. It was just like the perfect read for October, and it's like, you know, it's like a Hallmark movie where it's like super cheesy, but it gets you in like that spirit of the holidays, whichever holidays they are, you know. This one just got me into like Halloween spirits, so I liked this one. I gave it 4 out of 5. Then we have Vampathon, which I also have vlogs for. I have 2 parts of it because the first 4 days of Vampathon I have in a vlog, and then the final 3 days I have in a separate vlog because those final 3 days also overlapped with Camp Weekendween. So I'll link both of those vlogs up above and down below if you're interested. But the first book that I picked up for Vampathon was Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. This was a reread for me. This was one of my favorite books of last year, and I freaking love it. I loved my reread. I was having such a good time rereading this. I just love this book. But yeah, I've read Carrie Maniscalco's Stalking Jack the Ripper series, and her writing in that and the way she writes like sexual tension is just amazing. And it is no different in this book. It is so, so good. And basically it follows this witch, Amelia, who her twin sister is killed like brutally and her heart is ripped out. And so she is trying to solve who it is so she can get revenge. And she ends up summoning this demon, this prince of hell, to kind of help her out here. And they're kind of linked together throughout this book, and yeah, the story really takes off from there, but it is so good. And yeah, this was a for sure 5 out of 5. And I read that one because I picked up next immediately after Kingdom of the Cursed, which is the sequel, the second book in the series, and it just came out early October. And so obviously this was again one of my highly anticipated books of 2021. And let me tell you, if you didn't already watch my Vampathon vlogs, I freak out about this book quite a bit. This is definitely a top contender for my favorite book of the year because I just loved it so much. I love the setting. I'm not going to say too much about it because I don't want to spoil anything, but Miss Maniscalco really takes it to the next level in this book, and it is so good. If you like Sarah J. Maas books, then you need to pick up the Kingdom of the Wicked books because they're so good. They're so good. And of course, I finished it and I was like, are you kidding me? I have to wait. Are you kidding me? I have to wait for the next book. Are you kidding me? Is this a joke? So yeah, it's safe to say that this was a 5 out of 5, and definitely my favorite book that I read out of all the readathons, out of the month, maybe out of the year. I just loved it so much. I loved it so much. That's all I'm going to say on that. And then I followed that gem up with Vampire Academy, which I DNF'd at 140 pages. I was almost halfway through, and I just don't get it. I don't get why that book is hyped. I was so excited for it. I bought the whole box set, so I have the whole series, which I am unhauling. Like, I don't even have them in here because, like, But everybody says like, oh, it's so good, it's like stands the test of time, and Rose is such a good character, she's so cool, she's so badass. Like, where is she so cool and so badass? I really didn't like Rose. She was super cocky and arrogant, which I don't mind in characters. I even kind of like that in characters. But when you're super cocky and arrogant and you have like nothing to show for it, like you're just arrogant but for nothing, yeah, I didn't like that. Like, she was like, oh yeah, I'm like this super badass person, like all these people, like I'm so popular at school, like all these people think I'm such a badass, and I'm, you know, I'm so edgy. And then she just like gets her ass kicked all the time, like so easily. She has no survival or self-defense skills, and she's supposed to be this guardian for her best friend. Like, the only thing she has going for her is this like super rare bond that they have. That's it. And she does not control that. That's just like something that happened. So yeah, I don't get why people think she's such a badass. She literally can't do anything. So yeah, DNF that one. Won't be continuing on with the series, obviously. I'm very annoyed with that book, and yeah, moving on. So the next book that I read for Vampathon started on the first day of Camp Weekendween as well. So this kind of goes for both, and that is Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna McGuire. This is another reread for me. One of my favorite series of all time. I love this book so, so much. But it has like some vampy vibes. Mostly I was trying to get to the second book, Down Among the Sticks and Bones, which definitely has vampy vibes, so that I could read that for Vampathon, but I did start it during Vampathon, but I wasn't going to be able to finish it. So anyways, but yeah, this has green on the cover, so this worked for one of the Camp Weekendween reading prompts. And it still has like vampy vibes. It was really short, and it was a fun, random, spontaneous reread. I hadn't planned to reread it. I just decided like to pick it up. But now I'll be rereading the whole series, of course. But yeah, 5 out of 5. I love this series and that book very, very much. Then the next book I picked up was mainly for Camp Weekendween, and that was The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson. This is the 4th book in the Truly Devious series. So there's an original trilogy, Truly Devious trilogy, which I read last year, I think. Like after reading A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, I was in the mood for YA mysteries, and that's what this series is. It follows Stevie Bell, who's kind of like a Sherlock Holmes. She's like really, really good at solving crimes, and she gets sent to this like special school for very gifted kids, and she's trying to solve this cold case, and then things start happening in the present day that kind of seem like they match with that, so she's trying to solve 2 cases at once. And this book is like it could be not a standalone, because you kind of need to know the characters and the original trilogy before you read this, but you don't have to read this if you want to read the original trilogy, if that makes sense. But this one is set in a summer camp, which is why I picked it for Camp Weekendween, because it's like summer camp themed. And it's like a thrillery mystery type book, which was one of the reading prompts. And it follows a group of teens, which is one of the reading prompts. So it kind of fit a bunch of the prompts. And I really liked this one. I liked the mystery of it. I liked the setting. I really like summer camp settings. I never went to a summer camp as a kid, so I kind of just like to live vicariously through it, even if it's like a murder camp. But yeah, this was a good fun time. I think if you've read and enjoyed the Truly Devious series, you should pick this one up because it's pretty good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And then the final book that I finished for Vampathon was Fangs by Sarah Anderson. This is just like a little short, like comic style thing about a vampire and a werewolf who fall in love, and just kind of like a funny little thing. Like, yeah, it's just like funny little like situations that are like typical of a vampire or a werewolf, and it's just, I don't know, it was just a cute little thing. It takes like 15 minutes to read it, and this was what I read in the dark for Vampathon, because obviously it's a vampire, fits the vibes. And it was just really fun to reread it because it just, you know, it just makes you giggle. So if you haven't read this one, highly recommend. I gave this 5 out of 5. So those are all the books that I read in October. It's quite the stack. Let me try to pick it up. Can you see them all? Here, let's do a going up. Here are all the books that I read in October. So again, I will leave all of those vlogs for the readathons linked down in my description if you're interested in watching those if you haven't already. And let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these or what you read in October, what your favorite book was. Mine was definitely Kingdom of the Cursed. And thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you all in my next one. Bye!